start that. Thank you all for joining. With that, I want to turn over the session to Tiffany, to actually walk through the product. And again, if you have questions, please ask on the chat window. This product is live in New Hampshire, so it's in our demo center and available for samples and demos for customers that are looking for that. We're very excited about it, where it is. Again, as I mentioned, the addition of this to the portfolio really rounds out the complete portfolio. Many of you have already met Tiffany. If you haven't, this will be an experience in itself. Thank you, Tiffany. I'll turn it over to you for now.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As Dan mentioned, I am located out of our New Hampshire Center of Excellence. It's our innovation center for all things hybrid and all new product development coming through on the display graphics side. I'm super excited to take you on a tour of the EFI Pro 30H, as Dan mentioned, latest to our wide format portfolio. But something that's really special, really unique about this product in particular is that it is born of leveraging technology from our innovation centers around the world. For this product, we certainly did not think in a bubble. We leveraged technology from our Italian Reggiani platform, obviously dominating in its space for textile. We've leveraged some of the technology from our super high speed. Dan mentioned the ViewTech side. We've leveraged a lot of the technology that's been uber successful on our H series platform. And we've also leveraged even some technology from our single pass platform. So all three of those really sort of bundled, right now they're dominating in their space, in their respective spaces. And we were able to really hone in on some of that key technology to make the EFI Pro 30H such a remarkable product for our wide format space. We're super excited to get going. We'll start with some action. I'm joined by Bruce Bain. He is my lead application specialist for the 30H. So he's going to be in the background helping me show off the product as I'm talking to some of those tech points again from technology that we've leveraged from our other centers of excellence. Right now, you can see we are set up in a roll-to-roll configuration. We are running 2 rolls up. One of the big benefits to having that 3.2 meter or 126.5 inch width is that you can run your full 10-foot banner work. You can run multiple rolls up. In the software, some technology that we've leveraged from our high-speed series is the multi-roll scanning. So it will locate 2 different rolls on the table. So as it does its scan of the table, it'll find 2 right edges and give you the width of your 2 materials. Benefit there, of course, as you guys may know from our other products, is that you're not having to spend a lot of time in setup. So once you get the material into the print zone, you can activate your vacuum and start printing right away, saving all kinds of wasted material because you don't have to be under tension. Some technology that we leveraged from our friends out of our Israel roll-to-roll segment is the in-feed and take-up rolling system. So if you're familiar with the 16H, it has its challenges. It's a little bit difficult to get set up. Over here, we are using air bladders to inflate the roll to lock your rolls in place. We also have a ruler with the center being 0 working its way out. So again, getting alignment of multiple rows from the in-feed to the take up is much easier and much more accurate. You can see we're taking up nice and clean here in the front. Now, Bruce, this looks like it's really hauling. What mode are we running over here? Is this Express? Yeah. So I'll go ahead and grab the camera and just zoom in on this a little bit. We'll talk about some of the additional technology we're utilizing. So what you can see here, as Dan graciously mentioned, this is another introduction of LED for EFI. So we are still utilizing the LED technology. LED technology, something everybody familiar with our portfolio, EFI portfolio, we have transitioned nearly all of our products over to LED, really pioneering the technology more than a decade ago. Major benefits that everybody is aware of is, of course, that it's a low energy consumption. It's going to save you a ton on the power bill, but it's also a low temperature, very low temperature, so you can run some really thin substrates without having to worry about any wrinkling or buckling under the print heads. But the true benefit to LED is that you get consistency. There is no curve to the cure. There's going to be no change in color, no change in ink performance, ink and material relationship, because there's no degradation of the lamps over time, making them a non-consumable, much like you guys may be familiar with in our product portfolio. One of the really key elements that we have on this product is the ink set. We have introduced a new ink set to the EFI portfolio. It's our XA ink set. This product is launching with that XA ink. It's a phenomenal ink set with really, really great adhesion. You'll see later on in the demonstration, but really great adhesion to challenging things like non-digital acrylic. When you're talking about coroplast yard signs, it's a very challenging substrate to print to, but then also in post-print processing can be challenging to cut without having any fractures on those edges. And we'll give you a really great demonstration of what that looks like later on in the presentation. Some really key technology, as I mentioned, leveraged from our Reggiani platform based out of Italy, is the magnetic linear drive. So we've removed the gear and pulley system. And in some of our super high-speed products, we've also leveraged the magnetic linear drive. Bringing that down into the wide format space is going to be a real game changer. Not only does it allow for a much quieter transition of the carriage, you probably can't even hear it running behind me, but it's giving us much more consistent, precise drop placement, which means mode for mode. You can run in a higher speed mode and still get really great quality because we're more precisely and consistently controlling the placement of that drop. That happens by removing the vibration and the chatter and the noise that was getting introduced on legacy products using that gear and pulley system. So again, removal of that is going to allow for much more consistent, much more precise drop placement, again, giving you a higher quality. Another really key fundamental change that we have on this platform, something that we leveraged from our wide format side, from the 16H and the 30F. We have a zoned vacuum. Over here, we're utilizing 6 zones. Some really key benefits to the zoning that we have over here is you have some larger zones over here in the front and center, allowing you, again, good control when you're running multi-roll up or multi-lane, multiple boards across the table as well. But in the back, we have 2 individual zones that you can turn off when you're utilizing what we call continuous board mode. Another really great benefit of technology leveraged from our high-speed platform. Continuous board is allowing you 100% productivity, where you can load and run multiple boards back to back to back without any stopping of the carriage. So it'll allow you to register your secondary sheets, second, third, fourth, fifth sheets against the fence without fighting the vacuum. Again, having that individual control in the back to be able to turn those zones off so that you're not fighting vacuum. Take a quick pause. That was a lot of information. Dan, do you see anything in the chat that we need to address?
It says, will XA ink set come with the roll or rigid versions? Was a question that was asked.
Great question. So the XA ink is unbelievably versatile, and we are launching it throughout our portfolio. We're working on that right now. The big benefit to having it in the hybrid platform is that it is unbelievably flexible, which is really interesting considering it's also a very rigid ink. But it's flexible and gives you really great adhesion to rigid as well as roll substrates without having to choose between 2 different ink sets. So it's really, really versatile. We've seen really great success with heat bending, post-print cutting. We've seen some really good success on non-digital acrylic, as well as I mentioned, the coroplast materials. But on this type also, you can actually stretch the material for truck sides and have really great flexibility without any breakage of the ink. But the real key benefit also for my team on the rigid side is that after you're printing and you stack your printed substrates, previous inks, you could get some surface mar, abrasion and marking on the tops of the surface of the ink when you stack them. With this ink, it's very, very durable and resistant to fingerprints and to surface mar, again, if you're going to be stacking in a post-print application.
That's awesome. Hey, there's 2 other questions, and they're related to the 2 productivity features you talked about. One is continuous board. That's something we added that's, makes the machine highly productive. The other is the 2 rolls. How does it measure the space in between? Really is the savings by doing that. Those those two features for
Great, thank you, thanks. So for the two roll, it's going to locate the right edge by a variant and difference in the belt to material. So much like on the 16H or much like the other ViewTech products in the portfolio, it's an optical scanner looking for variance in the surface. And what it will do is it will scan and it will find this right edge, and then as it goes along, it's going to know that there's a variance here. It will realize that that's one roll, measure, and remember how wide that is, and then pick up your secondary right edge and measure your secondary roll. And then continuous board. Essentially, while the carriage is finishing up the tail of the sheet that's in the print zone, you'll be able to start registering your secondary sheets up against the fence, again, without the carriage stopping. So what that does is it allows you an increase of a couple of boards an hour because there is no downtime. So on, for example, if you look at the 16H, you have to wait for one board to eject. The carriage stops, goes home, you have to drop your media fence, load the sheet, and then engage your next print. So you're losing, it may only be, you know, a few seconds, a half a minute or so, but if you do that over the span of, you know, several hours or multiple shifts, of course that time adds up. So eliminating that stopping of the carriage, that loss in productivity, utilizing the continuous board technology will give you a few more boards an hour in speed.
And you mentioned, just for clarity, you mentioned it measures against the fence. It doesn't measure against the previous material. So you're always having a good edge on the next board versus having to rely on the trailing edge of the previous board. Is that true?
Exactly.
Yeah. Good.
So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. Bruce, do you want to take off the two rolls and we can actually show the loading of rigid sheets? We have a lot of printing to get through today, so we'll try and keep working in the background while we answer these great questions. Now, while Bruce is taking those rolls off, Bruce, if you want to stop the belt, I do want to talk just a second about the redirect roller. So you can see here something very different. If you're familiar with the 16H roll functionality, we do have motorized unwinders and rewinders. Again, with the air inflated bladder, you're going to come up from your main unwinder over the drive roller. Now this is a redirect roller. Again, some technology leveraged from our high speed. Over here it is standard. It's included with the press. On our high speed, it's actually an add-on. So you guys get a little bit of love for free. You're going to come up over your drive roller. And then this redirect roller, when you're loading, will be in the up position, and it will not be in contact with the table. You're going to take your flexible roll, if you choose to. You don't have to use it. You're going to come up over the redirect bar and then under the secondary bar. What that's going to do is it's going to help to smooth out any potential wrinkles, or if you are running a banner type material that maybe has waffly edges, we've all seen it. It will help smooth out any of that from getting into the print zone. Really, really beneficial. And again, something that was a real game changer for the super high speed with that 10-foot banner. The 10-foot banner, as we all know, can be a bit challenging to get through, not only straight, but flat. So this helps to drive it in straight as well as to smooth out those wrinkles. And Bruce is going to show us you can engage and disengage utilizing the software, as well as manual buttons off to the right-hand side of the press. So if you are running large roll, you don't have to be going back and forth left to right in order to engage or disengage your fence, as well as that redirect roller.
And hey, Tiffany, that was a back screen, right? So we have a screen on both sides. He's using.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So we
jumping ahead of you.
You don't have to go back and forth because we have the manual buttons off to the right-hand side of the press. But now we also have, again, leveraged from our ViewTech high-speed platform, we have dual monitors. They are mirrored. So the benefit there is that not only as the operator do you have complete access to everything that you do on the front of the press, you have complete access to it on the back of the press, but whomever might be walking up to the press will be able to see that somebody is using the press and see what they're working on and be able to know that somebody is using it that they need to wait. So it's nice and safe so that you can, again, not have anybody doing anything on the front, not knowing that you're on the back. But again, as an operator, this was technology that the world had been waiting for on our ViewTech side for many, many years. We introduced it about 3 years ago on our H series platform, and we were able to leverage that technology on the 30H, again, being able to have access to the backside of the press. So right here, you can see Bruce is getting staged. The changeover from roll to rigid, very quick and easy. You probably saw it in the background, very quick and easy. Again, something that we know is a real differentiator in the market space. You know, at this point, anybody can send you pretty pictures, but media management and efficiency of operator time is really, really key. So making sure that that transition from roll to rigid, even in a multi-up scenario, is really quick and easy. All you have to do is unwind your roll-to-roll work. You can see that you can leave your rolls on the press. It does not interfere with your sheet feeding. So if you do have some common roll materials, again, as an operator, you don't have to take anything off hardware or mechanical when you're changing from roll to rigid. And you're not having to load and unload those rolls very often. Push up your table to the press. They are designed to be daisy chained. So if you are going to be running, 8-foot board or 10-foot board and need the added space, you can certainly attach additional tables. They are designed to be daisy chained. We did get a lot of really great feedback on the size of them because they don't take up a ton of space. So unless you're running your 8-foot or 10-foot boards in the portrait orientation, this size table is perfectly fine. But again, you can add additional tables if you so choose to. They also are on a C-clamp here. So if you're not using the tables, you've got a whole long day of roll to roll. They will detach from the press. You can stand them up vertically, push them up against the wall, and again, they don't take up a lot of space. Now the changeover, mechanically, that was it. Put your table on. There is a media fence that will come down. As Dan mentioned, that's going to allow you really great registration of your sheeted materials. You're going to load it up against the fence. There's a ruler on the fence with additional stop blocks. So you can very quickly and easily set up for 2-lane, 3-lane, 4-lane up using the ruler and those additional stop blocks. Once you've established where those blocks need to be, you can just load your sheets in very quickly and efficiently across that 126.5-inch available space. The media rollers will come down for every print that you can see here. It's again helping to keep that material nice and flat. Now, if we transition over to the front, Bruce has done a media scan. As mentioned, it will find 2 right edges, and then the print will be then set up with margins to center inside of the right edges that were located. So the media fence just came down. Just getting those sheets ready for print. You can see the media bar came down. Vacuum will automatically engage because Bruce has loaded the material and let the press know that we are getting ready for print. Same on the front. To get set up for sheet work after roll, you're going to simply cut your material off. You can see the rolls are still loaded. Attach your table. Again, you'll have one for the front of the press, one for the back of the press. And again, you can add additional tables on the front as well. For anybody on the line that is familiar with our 16H, you have probably at least once struggled with the tail of a print popping up at the very, very end and causing a head strike. Pretty common, unfortunately. The way we've addressed it on this platform, again, is with the multi-zone vacuum. We have additional vacuum zones towards the front of the press that you can have at a higher vacuum level. But we've also introduced another media roller on the front of the printer. So what that's going to be able to do is hold the tail of that sheet down You've got the media roller in the back holding the material down as it's coming into the press. Now we have the media roller holding down the tail of the material as it's coming out of the press as well. So really great benefit there. Again, something that we was probably a pretty significant miss on the 16H, but technology that we've had on the EFI super high-speed hybrid platforms since their beginning. So again, some really great technology that we're able to leverage from the other products in the portfolio. Now, one thing to point out, we are running different images across the width of the press. You do have complete availability to run multiple different jobs across the press as well as in the process direction. You'll add them to your queue and you can continuously print again multiple different images in the cross process and the process direction. And again, if you watch those LED lamps, you can see that they're only on as they're curing the printed ink, and then they turn off for turnaround. So there's no wasted time or usage on these lamps.
And also the carriage is only going as far as the print, right? So that's a time savings as well. It doesn't have to go all the way across
Correct. So if you are not utilizing the full 3.2 meters, you will not have any wasted runtime on the carriage, any wasted runtime, on anything mechanical at all. It's all about productivity. The lamps and carriage and movement, all of that is directly related to the imagery that's being printed.
There was a question about material thickness. How does it measure that?
Yep, great question. So very similar to our 16H. It's a little bit of a combination of our 16H and 30F. So it is user defined. You're going to select a location in the cross process of where you would like to set your gap. In the software, you're going to specify if you're running roll or rigid. Now, when you first hit print on your first job of either roll or rigid, it's going to ask you if you want to set the gap very similar to what the 30F does. You're going to say yes. The carriage will raise up to its highest location. It will drive over to that predetermined spot on the table, and then it will lower. As it lowers, there's a pneumatic foot that will come in contact with the surface of the material. Once it does so, the gap is automatically set to 1.5 millimeters. Now, much like on the other products in the EFI portfolio, you do have control over how much that gap is. So by default, it's going to be 1.5 millimeters or 60 thousandths of an inch. You can increase that if you're running something that's particularly challenging. We've got some customers that, of course, are doing corrugate, which the edges sometimes get damaged in shipping. If you're running, carpet or scrim banner that, always has the little hairs on the edges, you can certainly go ahead and increase that carriage gap to give you a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of space. And then you just have to adjust your bidirectional, but that is a software setting and can be managed pretty quickly and easily by an operator. So it looks like Bruce is getting us ready now for a 4x8 of Coroplast. This is going to be an example of the success of the XA inks. So we're going to take it from the printer immediately after printing and take it over to our cutter. We do have a Zund in the demo center, so we'll be cutting it on the Zund. And I will be bringing the adhesion kit that you see here with me, and we'll do a quick crosshatch test as well. So immediately off the press, you'll be able to see the performance of that ink. Now, there was just a question about the carriage gap. Because the Coroplast, of course, is a thicker substrate than the cardstock we were just printing, you'll see that the carriage is going to raise up to its highest location, drive over to a spot predetermined by Bruce, lower, and as it lowers, it comes in contact with the surface of the material, and then it will engage the print. Now, if you're doing your multi-roll or multi-lane, if you've told the software that that's what your intent is, you have a gap and scan function that will gap the material and scan it automatically so that your height and your left-right is done in one motion, as opposed to, for example, on the 16H, that would be two separate processes. You can have it be done such that it is a single process on the 30H. And you can see we've already run, let's think about the different applications, right? We've run direct to multi-roll PSA. We've printed direct to multi-lane rigid cardstock, and now direct to coroplast, and we're going to take it over to the cutter to cut. So very, very versatile, very easy transition between materials and applications. You know, the hybrid platform for EFI for more than a decade has been really the Swiss Army knife, and allows our customers to be the yes houses, if you will, being able to feel confident that you can say yes to any customer requests coming into your shops. And this is just another feather in the cap, if you will, in that, you know, we're really, really versatile and really easy hands-off transitions, if you will, to swap between materials and applications. Another really great benefit is that you're going to see it today is that we have multiple modes. So you have seen Express mode, which is our highest speed mode. The production modes for the cardstock. I believe this is another, this is distant. So this is going to be a distant outdoor view mode. So again, a wide variety of different modes as well as applications and speeds.
And you might have mentioned it. What's the max thickness you can run on rigid?
That is 2 inches.
2 inches. Okay. Yep.
All right. So Bruce and Darren are going to go through the cutting. Bruce, if you want to grab that, we'll head over to the cutter. As mentioned, we do have a Zund in the demo room, but we do have plenty of third-party integration option availability with our Fiery XF front end. We can take you on a tour of Fiery XF at another time. If you guys are interested, please just reach out to your local reps, and I'm happy to stage a one-on-one demonstration for you on the software side.
Mm-hmm. That is key. Again, it's built into the printer. The Pro Server SE is built into the printer, so not only Fiery XF but the full Pro Server capabilities come with the press.
Exactly. So Darren is scanning the cut marks that were sent over from Fiery. And you'll see he's not only cutting it post-print, but he's actually cutting into the ink. So we're not just cutting the coroplast, we're cutting into the ink, breaking that ink and material relationship. And once it's done, you'll see we can pop them out, we can fold them. And again, I'm just grabbing my adhesion kit. We'll go ahead and do a crosshatch so you can see exactly what that looks like. So hot off the press. And as we cut into the material, you can see we're into the blacks, the lighter coverage areas, heavy coverage areas, no issues. And we can go ahead, bend it, scratch it, and it's perfectly fine. Darren, if you want to follow me, I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick crosshatch. We'll do it in a light coverage as well as a heavy coverage area. Perfect pass in the light coverage area. And we'll go right into the blacks. %% pass as well. So right off the press, again, absolutely no issues with post-print processing. Again, cutting as well as bending and folding, really, really versatile ink set. And you can see here too, even with fingernails, no marring or anything like that. So really, really great ink set.
And again, for clarity, that XA ink set, that's standard with the printer, right? So that's what the printer comes with. Can be used for lots.
Correct. Yep.
Yep. Awesome.
All right. We'll cut quickly back over to the Carriage, and we'll look at some of the mechanics, some of the things that we've changed on the Carriage, as well as some of the technology that we've leveraged. You can see there on the right-hand side, the magnetic linear drive. So on the beam, same really great, easy access to the inside of the Carriage. You can just slide the cover right off. We have found that the easier and more accessible we make the moving parts and the serviceable parts, the more inclined our customers are to do the required maintenance. So first of all, quickly I'll just run through some of the similarities. We won't spend a lot of time on them, but left and right we do have the mechanical crash bars, very similar to what we've used in wide format space in the past. We have the LED lamps, same Phosion lamps that we've been using, really, really successful. We've got a really great partnership with them. We're pushing more than 20,000 hours now before you have to, before we start seeing any sort of degradation in the lamps. And if you're familiar with the product, you know that 20,000 hours in the form of fractions of a second, like we talked about, really, really is quite a long time for these lamps. We have the onboard static ionization system as well. Leading and trailing, again, the benefit there is that because of the nature of LED, you're able to run really thin substrates that inherently have a bit more surface static. So you'll be able to mitigate that surface static, again, closest to where we're firing those jets. In the center, we are still running the Ricoh Gen 5 print heads. So we have 7 picoliter ultra drop grayscale technology. But on this platform, we have 2 print heads per color, much like the 30F and the 32R+. So that's where you're getting your increase in productivity, as again, compared to the 16H, along with that width. Something that we did differently here is we have dual channel heads. So we are running multiple colors in one head. And then we also have a symmetrical carriage technology that we leveraged again from our Reggiani platform. So for years, when you think about textile, you need solid, smooth colors for very, very long runs. And what they found is that if you're laying the colors down in the same orientation, regardless of carriage travel, so CMYK left to right, CMYK right to left, you're going to get much more consistent color pass to pass. So we did leverage that technology here. We've got it on our H series as well, and it's proven itself very, very successful. So utilizing the symmetrical carriage, much better solids, of course, much more consistent color laydown for those solids as well. We are heating our secondary tanks. Same self-tensioning plumbing from the secondaries to the print heads, so you don't have to worry about any tools or anything crazy like that. Over here, we will purge down into the main holding tank down here. There is an overnight tray that will pop out, that will slide out and cover up those heads for any downtime. Manual purge here. You can purge by color. Something new we've leveraged from our other products in the portfolio, different from the 16H or the 30F where you have to purge everything. This you can purge by color. I'm going to go ahead and show the ink system really quickly. Again, just a quick walk around. This is going to utilize 5-liter tanks now as opposed to the 1-liter bottles. It's going to give you a lot more productivity, of course, before you have to stop to change out your inks. CMYK in the center, and then you have your leading and trailing white. Very clean system. It should look pretty similar to our 32R+. You can see back here, you've got very easy access to your pneumatics should you need to change anything for your fence, your input roller, or the capping station. Moving back around to the back. Again, very easy access to your serviceable parts should you need to service them. You've got your pumps and your pump filters back here for the ink delivery system. And then as mentioned, we also have the controls for your fence, your media rollers, your vacuum, all of that on the back side of the press as well. So if you are loading multiple sheets or you're loading a large roll and you need to access those moving points, you can touch them here as opposed to having to go over back around to the load side of the press. All right, so Bruce has gotten us set up for, we're going to run some really fantastic white ink only print for you on some black PVC. Dan, are there any questions that need to be addressed in the chat?
One of the questions that came up was, how does it catch the edge on a black material? You're about to show that. how do we find the edges on that?
So on the black rigid material, you're going to be utilizing the fence for registration. It will not find black rolled material if it's the same sheen as the belt. So again, that optical scanner is going to be looking for a variance in sheen or color from the belt. So very similar to the 16H, very similar to the other hybrid products in the portfolio. It does need to have some sort of variance in order to be locate.
Okay.
So again, we're just going to set the gap, and then the print will engage. Different than the 16H, whereas normally you would have to set the gap and then the carriage would go home and then you would engage the job. Over here, you can see it will set the gap, ask if you want to continue, you say yes, and then it will continue. Again, it's just going to save you a little bit of time, print to print.
There was a question about the sensors for head strikes.
Sensor for
head strikes to prevent head strikes, head crashes. I think you talked a little bit.
So we don't have a sensor or like a wrinkle analyzer or anything like that. We use the mechanical crash bars. So it does require contact, but it is an immediate stop of the carriage, and it won't be able to come in contact with your jets because it is so far away from those print heads. So you don't have to worry about contact. If you do have an ESOP issue, it will be outside of your print head.
Thank you.
And again, you can see we're only traveling in the area of the table that contains print information. The carriage is not going that full 3.2 meter while we're printing on this smaller sheet. So you can see that's a single hit of white ink onto the black Sintra. Unbelievably opaque, very, very white. Something that's really, truly unique to EFI is our white ink printing. Again, something that we've been incredibly successful with over the last decade or more. What that allows for our operators and for our end users, as you'll be able to see once this pops out, single hit of white onto the very opaque materials is more than enough. And it's very, very neutral white. It doesn't pull, cool or pull warm like some of the other competitive equipment does. Main reason for that, EFI is not only the OEM of the hardware being the printer, but the software and the ink. So we have our ink development team right here in the New Hampshire facility, where we're able to really push the technology of white ink very, very efficiently. So it's a very neutral white. And then again, where we're curing with LED, we're not burning the inks. So you'll be able to maintain a very neutral white. Now, really, really, really important to make sure that we make note of is that we also linearize our white separate from our CMYK. So there's absolutely no loss, as you can see, to print quality when you're printing with only white ink. You're still utilizing that 7 picoliter drop. You're still using the grayscale technology, the very high resolution from the print heads. We don't limit our white ink like some of the other competitors have to do in order to get the opacity. So we still have very, very high quality white ink printing when you're printing only white ink. Some of the other folks out there do have to use a much larger fixed drop size in order to achieve the opacity required for the opaque materials. Again, no loss in print quality for this side at all.
And Tiffany, can you talk a little bit? I think we can do 5-layer print, right, on this, so it allows other applications as well.
Yep,
Color,
absolutely.
white, black. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were going to round out with the software here real quick. So what you're looking at here on screen is the viewee or the user interface. We also have Fiery XF, as Dan, you mentioned already, being onboard and embedded, and it is. So you have Fiery XF color management, profile suite, the whole nine embedded on the printer, but it does also offer additional seats. So if you do have a design department that's not by the press, it's in a different spot of the building, different building altogether, they can drive files to the Pro server with a seated license. Now, within Fiery XF, we showed you the cut mark functionality. So you can come in, turn on your cut marks, select your manufacturer. Again, we have hundreds of different manufacturers that we can work with. This, of course, we just used the Zund. So you can see it applied the cut marks that the Zund was looking for. And you can send that cut information immediately over to your cutter if your cutter is on the network. So that's how you would do that. It's very quick and easy, turn them on. And then going back to your layering comment, you can see over on the left-hand side, you can select your output mode, select your white ink functionality. If white ink is new to you and your customers, we do have some default options built in. So you can use a bounding box, which is just going to be a complete flood of 100% coverage white ink wherever there is print information. We have spot white ink, which is what Bruce utilized for the old man, where in pre-press, either Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever the case may be, would call out a spot color white channel. Then you would select this option. And then we have fixed ink amounts and ink chroma maps, where Fiery will evaluate your native image and apply appropriate levels of white. Once you've selected that, you can also spread and choke within Fiery. You don't have to go back to pre-press. Maybe they forgot to do it, whatever the case may be, you can spread and choke here. And then these are your layering options. You can do color on white. So that would be a first surface print on an opaque material. You can do white on color, would be a second surface on clear material, where you'll print your color first and then your white on top. Mix is what Bruce utilized here. This is a really key function if you're only running with white ink. You don't have any CMYK or layering. That would allow you to run at production speeds without having to take a speed hit for the white ink in the layering application. Then we have the color white color. Color white white color. So if you do need not a true blockout, if you just want a little bit extra white, you can do color white white color. And then, as Dan mentioned, we have 5-layer capability now, where you have color, white, black, white, color. And your 2 color layers can be different images. They don't need to be the same image. So 1 time through the press, up to 5 layers, giving you a true blockout. Has helped also a bit eliminating having to do double-sided printing on a rigid or a roll. You can do that true blockout and eliminate that extra step of double-sided printing.
Perfect. Excellent. So, I think Tiffany, we're kind of getting towards the end, just from a timing, from what you've talked about, really, and what we've done with this product is it's really all about productivity. Productivity in the print side itself, high quality, lots of options on the print. Productivity in the features, whether it's continuous board, whether it's the dual roll capability. The front and back screen, those are all, things for continued, productivity. 5-liter ink bottles. Again, we expect this will be a high production, high value, high usage machine. So it's really meant to run at that.
Absolutely. And one thing I did forget to mention, that when you're talking about productivity and efficiency is that we leveraged a mirror function from our super high speed platform where you'll print first side using your top right-hand corner of your sheet. Now, if you can imagine that sheet wasn't cut perfectly straight, you flip it over and now you're using the opposite side of your sheet for registration. If it's not cut straight, your images, regardless of what you do, aren't going to line up. So over here, what we did is you print the first side on the in-feed side on the left side of the press, and then when you flip it over, you're going to register on the right-hand side of the press, so you're using the same two sides of registration. So really efficient there. It's going to cut down on any sort of mistakes because things didn't line up. And again, if your material is not cut perfectly straight, it won't matter in this instance where you're going to be mirroring it. You're going to be using the same two sides of registration. So some good efficiencies there as well. Something I forgot to bring up earlier.
That's right. And one other question that came up was texture. Can you do print with some kind of texture on it or build up with this?
So the layering functionality over here is a little bit different than, say, on the H series. So you can build up layer texture over here through layering ink on top of cured ink, but it will require a couple of passes through the printer. Bruce has had some really great success running heavy, dense prints in multiple passes through the press to get some texture build to simulate things like wood grain, or to simulate like a tile feel. So you can certainly do that in line, but it does require a couple of passes through the press.
Perfect. And we talked a lot about FireXF being built in. There were some questions about other RIPs that could they connect to it, to the machine. I think one of the things for sure, and you showed some of the features built in with FireXF, but do you want to talk through that for anybody that's has those types of questions?
Sure. Of course, we would love for everybody on the line to love FireXF as much as we do, but we certainly understand that there are some shops that maybe have put a lot of time and work into color management or custom profiles on things like Onyx or Caldera. And much like we do through all of the other products in our portfolio, they will have the drivers to be able to drive the 30H, so you will have the availability to continue utilizing Onyx or Caldera, should that already be what your house, your production house is using.
Printing on mesh material, anything different for this? Printing on mesh itself? On
mesh. So we do have, and I can take the action to share it if anybody's looking for it. I do have a video of, you can run mesh or run full bleed applications utilizing a very thin tissue paper, so that the overspray ink or the blow through ink in the example of mesh is landing on the tissue and not on the belt. But very similar to the 16H and the other hybrids in the portfolio. If you are going to be printing on the belt, it will eventually build up a pile height and it will eventually need to be cleaned off.
Okay, thank you. Hey, so Tiffany, you've been around all of our printers, and part of this new launch or this class of printer, what excites you most about this printer? Like, what are the things you look at and say, we got this. This is unbelievable. What features or what?
Great question. So there was a huge opportunity in the wide format space, of course, for the width, right? So being outside of the 1.6, 1.6 was the only hybrid that we had in the entry level space. Having that full 3.2 meter, being able to do your banner work, being able to remove the seams, right? So if you can run 10 feet wide by however long, as opposed to having to run narrower rolls and then having to seam everything. So really that width, that 3.2 meter width, was absolutely needed in the wide format space for sure. The roll-to-roll take-up on here, phenomenal. Again, leveraged from the Matan platform, which is our super high-speed roll-to-roll device. That is a really well thought out, and I don't know if you were able to see it, but the take-up on the front of this was absolutely spot on. So huge improvement over the 16H. And then, of course, that redirect bar, like I said, it's an option on our super high speed products. It's included with the 30H, and it really helps with that transition of roll to roll being really nice and straight as well. So those are really great options. Of course, keeping the EFI wide ink is phenomenal, and then the 5-layer capability for the true block out in one time through the press is something that has been needed in the market space for a very long time. Something that we've started introducing again with the H series, and we're able to utilize that technology that was already invested on the 30H as well. So that's going to be a really great function for our customers as well.
Excellent.
And then the XA game changer.
Okay. Yeah. The XA ink, yeah, for sure. That's you talked about using the layers to kind of remove the need for some double-sided print, but how does the double-sided print work here in general? We talk about.
Yep, so we utilized the mirror function that we have on the ViewTech high-speed hybrids. So you will be able to use 2 0-0 points. So when you do flip your material over, you're going to run it on the opposite side of the press. So that's going to give you good registration of your image front to back, regardless of how straight or not straight the material has been cut. So much more accurate than if you tried to do double-sided on the 16H. That did get a little bit challenging. Another thing that we utilized over here is we on the belt, it's not just going around the drive roller. There is a third roller underneath that's going to help keep that belt driving straight, which is what made longer 4x8 runs on the 16H or double-sided printing on the 16H a little bit challenging because the belt would walk, and we've eliminated that over here. We also have media detection scanners. So when you are running roll to roll, we have 2 optical devices on a rail that you can position to be behind your rolls. And if the material runs off of the main unwinder and bypasses that sensor, the printer will pause and let you know that you've run out of material. And that will allow you to be able to utilize nearly 100% of your material on that roll, very limited waste. So you have the option, once that trigger has been engaged, to continue printing. If you know you only have a little bit left to go, you don't have to waste that print. You can utilize as much of the material as you want.
Excellent. And again, more productivity tools. Again, in what I heard you say a lot of is we've taken the learnings from the Reggiani textile, the single pass, the ViewTech high-speed line, and what's already been in the wide format line, and really built it into this printer. So it's really kind of
absolutely
a combo of the best of everything. XA ink as standard was a development project as well. So a lot of key productivity features, a lot of key engineering and learning built right into the product itself.
Yeah, and while it's a new product for the portfolio, it's not intimidating, being that it's not all brand new technology. It's technology leveraged, and that's been proven in other segments of the EFI portfolio, and just all brought together to bring a new product. Again, cross-leveraging technology and innovation from our worldwide centers. So really great product.
Yeah, and that's a benefit of our Center of Excellence shift as EFI. We've really taken, from a technology perspective, how do we leverage the best of everything from across the globe and bring it into the new product entrance. So customers on the phone, if you guys get a chance for the 30H, use it, you'll benefit from that. So we're open for samples and demos. If this is a product that makes sense for you, you think it makes sense for you, get us your toughest examples, things we can do. Whether it is, high adhesion ink on coroplast, whatever it is, thin materials, white, but those are the types of things we love to show you, because if you can do that, you can do anything. And that's really where the printer comes in. So we're winding down the hour. We probably have a couple other questions that'll come in. You may have some that come afterwards. Feel free to work with your EFI rep or EFI dealer rep and any questions, and we'd love to take it in. Tiffany, just as we get to the top of the hour, any final comments for the team? And again, thank everybody for being on the phone. We've had quite a number of folks. We do have this recorded, and again are able to answer any further questions one-on-one.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I want to say is, to Dan's point, we are open for business. We're up and running. Bruce and I are busy up here in the demo center, but please get in touch with your local reps. Reach out, get some samples done, get some, happy to do one-on-one custom demos. We do about, 8 to 10 a week. So, really busy, really happy to host you guys and really showcase the portfolio. And Dan, I believe there's going to be a quick survey that goes out after the call as well. So if you guys can watch your inbox, make sure you fill out the survey. And make sure you let us know how we can help assist you and your customers.
That's correct. All right. Well, thanks all for joining. We'll end the call. Tiffany, thank you for your time, and team, thank you for your time up there, and for everybody that participated, thank you guys for your time today. We appreciate it and look forward to hearing from you more on the product and how we can help.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.